But Mazraoui and Ahmad have been absolutely fantastic. If we had 11 players like that, we'd be in a title race.
Manchester United 4, Everton 0. Another convincing win for Manchester United. I say another. What is it? Undefeated in the last 7 games?
It's a convincing win.
It's a convincing win. It is a convincing win for Manchester United. But we don't get these very often, do we, Steve?
No. And lads, it's only Everton. Yeah, but do you know what? If you're going to comment, it's Everton getting carried away, don't, because one, I don't care, and two, bore off. Yeah. How about that?
Because also, when we played poor teams last season, and the season before, and the season before, and the season before, we would still not just batter them. You don't just batter teams 4-0 just because they're not that great. We would sink to their level and make it an absolute dogfight. Even if we won those games, the amount of times we won by 3-4 clear goals under Ten Hag, you can count on one hand. And I'm not blaming Ten Hag for all of that, but something is clearly sort of clicked, hasn't it, early on? Or do you think there is a bit more look to it and a bit more nuance to it than just that?
Probably. We had Marcus Rashford had 2 shots on target today and they both went in. Mm-hmm. Bruno Fernandes created 2 chances and they both went in. This isn't like Bruno creates 6 chances and nobody scores. Marcus has 4 or 5 shots and doesn't score. Garnacho does somewhat similar. There's all sorts of metrics that kind of didn't happen like that. I mean, our XG today was fucking rubbish in the grand scheme of things. Yet we've come away 4-0. There has to be an element of context to all of the stats and all of that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, I've just seen Sky Sports saying that United were unconvincing, Everton were actually pretty good. I mean, they've just shipped 4 goals. I don't remember them having a serious shot on target. They've had about 20% of the ball. They threatened us not at all. Yet United were bang average, supposedly. I thought United were quite slow. Maybe the gaffer wants that. Maybe methodical is the word he might use to describe that. But I felt at times we was a little bit slow. Ultimately, though, we've just scored 4 goals and kept a clean sheet. You're happy about that. There's no other emotion allowable after that.
Yeah, it's weird because I think Everton had a decent spell from maybe the 15th, 16th minute to kind of the 30th minute. They had a 15-minute chunk there where they had more of the ball and they sort of pressed us really well. But like you said, they didn't turn that into dangerous shots on Onana's goal. He didn't have to pluck out even the second save against Ipswich last week, let alone the first one where he's got a player 5 yards out. There was nothing like that at all from Everton all day. No. So I think to suggest that United were poor and Everton were all right is just you're looking for a story there, aren't you? Really, surely.
Yeah, it was absolute bollocks. I think that if you're going to be critical of anything or worried about anything going into the Arsenal game in midweek, there was a handful of times where I saw Everton break lines almost vertically, but miss our lines out and penetrate our box or final third or get a shot on with almost no effort. Sometimes even from playing out. And I go, trying to overlay Arsenal over Everton being able to do that. I think the reason is we're still not used to the distances and the shapes and the patterns that we're supposed to see without the ball to prevent that. And for that reason, it's a little bit of a concern. Now, I'm sure it will be addressed, I'm sure, in analysis and all the rest of that sort of stuff. It might just take a minute to get used to. Does the Arsenal game come a little bit quick for that? Because if we allow Arsenal that sort of space, it won't be 4-0 at Manchester United.
No, absolutely. I mean, hopefully, well, I say hopefully, we're going to see a different lineup anyway because the likes of Martinez and Mainu are now suspended for that game. I don't think we'll see Casemiro and either an Eriksen or a Mainu, the sort of slower midfielders next time. I think Ugarte will have to start that game. He just has more energy. But it's going to look a little bit different. But I think beating the team in front of you is so much more easily said than done. As I mentioned before, I mean, one player that's just absolutely shone under Amorim so far is Amad Diallo, who, again today, picking the ball and pressing and pushing and winning it back and making assists. And I think it's 5 assists in 11 games in the league for him so far this season. And, a handful of them have come from this wing-back position, or a couple have come from this wing-back position. What did you make of him today and how much he sort of, not necessarily taken a step up, but completely grabbed the opportunity he's been given?
I would say grab the opportunity he's been given because this performance has been there all season with him, in my opinion. Like, I think he's been doing that under Ten Hag this season. He's been creating chances. He's been winning his duels. He might not have been converting those into assists, but I don't know if anyone else noticed that we couldn't score any pleading goals earlier this season, which has probably got a hell of a lot to do with that. Like I said, we probably had a little bit of luck, which were due for some of the chances going in today. But, he's been creating chances all season. He's been winning his duels all season. He's been playing with really consistent decision-making. And that's one of the things that I've sort of preached all year with him and with Mazraoui and that. Give me performances before anything else, and that will eventually lead to chances created, and that will eventually lead to goals being scored, rather than, flash in the pan. Xerxes, for example, today could be flash in the pan in terms of he's come away with 2 goals. Does that mean he starts every week now? No, he was poor with his duels. He only won 1 out of 8. I thought his link play was kind of nice, but does he have the forward instincts to play at the speed the Premier League is? At the moment, I'm unconvinced. But 2 goals, people are going to be like, what are you talking about? He was brilliant. There's more to the game than just those superficial goals and assists. They're very, very, very important. Very, very important. Critical, you could argue. But if you want to repeat performances, you have to go with what underlies and is the foundation of those performances. And for me, 2 players this season, and I could maybe push it out to a De Ligt as well, although he's had a couple where he wobbled a little bit. But he's been pretty good. But Mazraoui and Ahmad have been absolutely fantastic. If we had 11 players like that, we'd be in a title race, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, another player that superficially looked obviously 2 goals today was Marcus Rashford. But with Marcus, I almost feel like because he's such a confidence player, him sort of building a foundation of confidence, whether it comes from phenomenal, numbers behind the scenes or whether it is just a goal here or there, for me, well, I'll ask you, do you hope that this can be the first step in a Marcus Rashford that's more productive for the side when it isn't just coming to goals? Because at least he's starting with that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was a livelier performance from him today. Yeah. He looked a lot keener to press. There was times where I thought he could have put a bit more pressure on Branthwaite and test him a little bit more. And I think that was kind of proved a little bit when Ahmad did it and took the ball off him. So it kind of looked like it is something that he maybe should have been doing, but it was better than he's been in recent weeks. He's been dreadful in terms of like his whole body language and his whole demeanour in recent weeks. It was a bit of a step up. Maybe the gaffer said something to him. Maybe he's decided to try and give it a good old fashioned go. But he only had 2 shots on target and he scored 2 goals. That's the sort of clinical finishing that we've been looking for from our forwards. I think he only had 4 shots in total. I think 1 was blocked, 1 missed, and 2 have gone in. Jesus, you deliver that week in, week out, and he's going to have another one of those 30-goal a season. I don't know if that's likely with him. Maybe this is the manager figuring out how to get those 210s to play. I know that it was Xerxes that lined up as a striker today, and Marcus was clearly one of the side players, if you like.
Yeah.
Maybe that can be rethunk a little bit, and maybe Xerxes does play off someone like a Rashford or a Højlund, because they're similar in their style, that they'll both kind of run in behind a little bit. And maybe that's where Marcus fits into the team, because I don't really see him being a 10 that's going to link and knit play. When he's tried to do that, he's looked poor. But when he plays on the last man and he's that in-behind threat, which he was today, he can come away with some goals. Marcus needs to remember who he is and what his strengths are, and maybe not try and broaden his skill set, but actually just improve the things that make him the player that he can be. And I reckon that hopefully is what the management is going to look at it and say, no, just do this and keep doing it and improve on doing this and you'll be sound, rather than trying to add like playmaker to your bow, because it's not who you are.
No, it's not. And I think one thing we saw from Rashford today was, I think anyway, compared to the game last week, the runs that he did make in behind, it felt like there was more aggression behind them, more energy. He actually was trying to get the ball. It felt like a couple of times last week where the ball got played in behind and he's sort of half going for it. Whereas today I thought he wants this today, which, is a small step, if nothing else, in the right direction. Looking ahead to the Arsenal game then, you mentioned it before. You mentioned about there's a lot of things that if we do them, it won't be great against Arsenal. What things did you see today that you want to see repeated against Arsenal that give you encouragement for that game?
the defensive stability. I think there's a reliability to the to that back three, even though we're probably not going to see that exact back three. The shape works.
Yeah.
I know it's very much a football meta at the moment that people are playing in the 3-2-5 sort of in possession shape. I just think Ahmad and Mazraoui, well, they work. Let's just keep doing whatever they're doing.
Yep.
I'm still not sure where Bruno fits into this exactly, because I thought it was a mature performance from him against Bodo Glimt. He kept the ball really well. He lost the ball a lot today, but he creates 2 chances and they both get scored. He comes away with 2 assists.
Yep.
Little bit like, can we find a balance between those 2 performances maybe? I think it probably will be a more defensive. I'm hoping actually it's a more defensive performance against Arsenal than it has been the last couple of games, because it needs to be, for sure.
Yeah.
I wonder if Højlund gets a start.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if he does, probably means Marcus doesn't. Is that a positive or a negative? Does he go with Mount and Bruno and ask them to both press, and maybe go with Casemiro, Ugarte in behind? Maybe gives you a little bit more solidity in midfield. I don't know. But yeah, I would say we got numbers in the box. That was good. Yeah. We are obviously trying to create some level of patterns in the final third. I don't. It's small steps at the moment, isn't it? You're not. People are going to see the scoreline and think it's been drastically different to what we've done all season. I don't necessarily think it has. I think it's been tweaks rather than drastics. Yeah. So if we get a result there, I'll be very, very, very happy and probably a little bit surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, thank you very much, T. Like you said, it may be the performance wasn't the best that we've ever seen. It's tweaks, but getting 4 goals against Everton is something, or 4 goals against anyone, is something that we haven't done very much in the last couple of seasons. So we'll take it. Thank you for joining us at home. Hit subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll see you in a bit.